Oh, good evening and welcome to Wednesday Night Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Joe Slick, and with me I have Canuck. Hey, Canuck, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing
And
good.
my boy Luke, he was here and he had to take off for a minute, but we'll deal with that in just a moment when he returns. Um, Let me see. What the hell happened to it? Oh, no, that ain't right. I guess, no, that ain't right. There we go. Yep, there you go. Now we're going to have his big old blockhead on here. Hopefully not. It been having a little bit of issues with the upload link here, but Chrome, yeah, Google Earth. That's what we're at. All right, so we got that. So going back to Google Earth, here we go. Look at the island of Santorini. Some nice pictures of history. We're talking about the heart of Santorini right here. And let me make sure my boy's still on there. It looks like he dropped off. Oops, sorry. No, he's still there. All right. I don't know why it does that. You still don't have that there your image, huh? Canuck.
Nope, not on this computer. I've never
All
transferred
right.
it
I'll have
over.
to send it to you via email so you can have it. You can log in on that computer. Yeah. Santorini's the biggest news um, geomagnetically or geophysically right now.
Yeah, because
Um,
they're all fighting the geophysicists, the seismologists, and
yeah.
about what they think it's doing.
Right. There's some wild as we look right now. This is fibro. These are the earthquakes today. Um, there is a 4.2, a 4.7, and the rest are like 2.7s and 1.6 or a 3.6. So there was a whole bunch of earthquakes, and then it kind of tapered off, and then a couple of fives came in and sped it all up again. Um, and it just proved that the land is moving, and it's interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. Again, Iceland is still doing its thing. The latest smaller earthquakes, really small earthquakes, the depth is between 1.5 kilometers and 12. Most of them are right around 2, so they're still pretty deep. Um, and there is, seismic activity there in Iceland. Also, I think we did have a image of Etna. I'll try to find that for you. Here's the another Iceland event there, and let me see if I can get a picture of Etna quickly. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Um, History, because I was watching Etna a little bit today too. Um, yeah, Kilauea is erupting again, so we can talk a little bit about that too. It's
Yeah,
all smogged in. It looks like it's stopped, so we shut that stuff off. Interesting that it's no longer active. Um, there's electronic signals in Santorini. The only volcano that seems to be having that is Santorini. I'm not sure that anywhere else is following that vibrations. Um,
no, it's just some of the radical geophysicists
yeah,
that are detecting it, and they say that it's making the same signals above it
Mm-hmm.
as what happened in the atmosphere before the turkey quakes and the 2.7s in 2023
All
February.
right. So there's something in that region that tells them stuff's happening.
Yeah, like they have some sort of VLF stations. The one
Yeah.
they're using is in Italy,
All
but they have
right.
another one that's in Russia, and they're both
And the
showing.
UK are doing it too, right? People in the UK.
Yeah, and they're both showing the same signals as what it did from those two stations that they're using, same as
Okay.
what happened in Turkey in February 2023. So based upon that, they think there's going to be a big quake
All right.
because it's having the same type of signals in the ionosphere and stuff as what it did in the few days before
What the-
the turkey quakes, which were also February. So that's why they think it's quite interesting what it's doing.
Yeah. Grindavik is not erupting yet,
No.
but it's on watch, and I have a live feed for that in Sundur and Sligas Fell. And the British Geologic Survey seismologist Margarita Segal. We have evidence that the fluid driven swarm type seismicity that comes in pulses. This is not unheard of in other volcanic regions. However, this time it is evolving on top of an active fault that complicates the expression of seismicity. It is easy to get disconnected stories when we just look at the moderate magnitude seismic events. It is only when we investigate the smaller magnitude events that occur between what we learn of the mechanism, the hidden mechanism, and that place between the large earthquakes. It is crucial that we track whether those pulses become more frequent and that how they migrate in space and depth. So far, the largest quakes in the swarm has been a 5.2. And this is British Geologic Survey seismologist Margarita Segou, Dr. Margarita Segou. Interesting lady. And uh, the the pulse between the larger earthquakes and its connection with the Earth's electronic currents or tellurics, mechanical stress on rocks and semiconductor minerals triggered the piezoelectric effect, causing free electrons to pop out of the crystal lattice, generating an electric current. Conversely, an applied electric field can induce internal mechanical ugh, stress in the piezoelectric materials. The reverse piezoelectric effect, as ionically charged fluids travel in porous rocks, electric current is created by the motion of the pulse. Rock is displaced as seismic waves pass through ion laden groundwater in the pore. Um, it's mixed with salt and ions, right? So it's sloshing around. The motion of the islands is relative, and the field creates a circular elliptical um, electromagnetic and opposite orientations for positive and negative ions. So that's what's going on down there, and it's really, really, really interesting. Um, so you probably should look up that article too.
Yeah.
Earth's electric currents tell your ix, TELLURICS.
Yeah. And they think that the earthquake lights that people see at the time of the earthquake or just before or just a little bit after are part of this same process
Right.
where the charge is like going back and forth between the ionosphere and what's happening in the
All right.
Earth's
Yeah, and the idea is during a solar storm cluster uh, uh, um, detected strong currents along the magnetic field lines, as well as the bursty book flows. What we're when we talk lineaments and we talk L shells and L lines or whatever, we're talking about the way electricity goes around our planet,
Yeah.
and and it's attracted in some ways. Some of the mechanical energy accumulated by the compression of rocks before large earthquakes is released upwards from the surface. These processes at the ground to air interface can lead to the injection of massive amount of charged or ions into the lower atmosphere, greatly increasing air conductivity. Varied phenomena such as earthquake lights, rising temperatures, tropospheric pressure changes, ELF, VLF, radio frequency distortions, and total electron content, TECs, perturbations, and the ionosphere. Sudden ionospheric disturbances, traveling ionospheric disturbances may occur as a result of the ion injection. And it's all coming out of the ring current around our planet. And um, it's charged, and we've known it to be charged for some time.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been anything to release that charge. And the ring current acts like a battery. It stores that energy in the atmosphere. So when something happens, like we get we haven't really had geomagnetic storms in some while. Let me see when the last one was.
No,
That's
we've just had like strong solar wind.
yeah, a little bit of solar wind, which that when there's dry wind, the static electricity in the air, you feel that. Yeah, the last time magnetic storm was January 4th, was a KP5, very,
There's a
very
big
weak.
gap in the corona that's
Yeah, so solar.
rotating in or to Earth
Yeah,
facing like right now.
yeah, it's kicking up a lot of wind. We should see. I think this morning I was referring to it. I don't know if they're still seeing.
Because whatever this VLF stations they have, they can see like when it tries to come down out of the ionosphere and tries to connect to a certain spot.
Right, with the new instruments. Right now, the solar wind's only 451. The proton density is at 2.1 per cubic meter. We've only had a C2 to C3 flare. There are polar stratospheric clouds at night. Usually, weather stratosphere has a set a stage for rare nighttime apparitions of polar stratospheric clouds, or PSCs. They're happening in Finland. You can see them, and this is taken by a Marianne Bergley, and I'll share that with you. Yeah, let me see. This is stuff that's happening in our atmosphere, and that's the wild part, the interesting part in my mind. As I bring this back over here, I'm going to share that with those people out there on the other. Loading. There we go. These stratospheric clouds, they're nearly invisible until they're not. And so there's a lot of things that are going on in the atmosphere, and people don't really, kind of like, okay, I'm working, I'm trying to live my life. But if you slow down, auroras is another one. Like, we also look at ground magnetics, and ground magnetics are pretty busy at the moment. Check this out. This is the last 4 hours. These are the ground magnetics upon the Earth, right? The sun is somewhere out in the Pacific, maybe entering the international date line in Philippines. Look at that. Did you see that pulse?
Yeah.
Look at that. That's pretty insane right there. Right? It looks like it's in the south right now. Let me see where's the BZ at the moment. The BZ's in the south at the moment too. So it's still equatorial region. It was in the north over the last 6 hours. Over the last 12 hours, primarily in the south, but a few peaks in the north. -5 to positive, or no, yeah, -5 to +5. Still in that equatorial region. Right now it's at 397. So it's -397. So it's in the south just a bit. When it gets like -20 or +20, positive would be in the north and negatives would be in the south. Then we start to see the chance for observing activity and going, okay, it's related to this, and this magnetic connection that we get with the sun is pretty interesting, to say the least. Let me find out where the sun is right at this minute. Under the links here. All right, open up that one. And well, it's not there. That's the moon. Okay, yeah, over the maritime continent and Australia, over PNG. So that's where the sun is right now. Share the tab, and you'll see. This is where the sun is right now. So most of the solar activity is coming in right here, and you can see the moon on this side of the Earth, and it's dark out there right now for me. And I don't think they're one's chasing the other, but it is what it is. It looks like it, eh? Interesting to say the least. And so when we're trying to say, hey, what's going on in Santorini? What's going on in Etna? What's going on in Iceland? And this is the live version of Kilauea. Smoked out. I don't see that it's erupting at the moment. So, and we're sharing this. Sorry, in the Aurora. Already saw this. And I'll show you where the coronal hole is. Share this tab. Here's the coronal hole right now. This will not affect us right now. It'll affect us in 3 days, 2.5 days. Because the way the sun's spinning and we're spinning, it's like we'll get right now. We're like in the middle, right where my little cursor is, about the size of that little plus sign too, by the way. And hey, Conan, nice to see you. But the solar wind out of this coronal hole won't get to us until probably, I say, the 14th or 15th. We'll see what NASA has to say. And you can see down here the velocity of the wind. You can see it. We're in a bunch of wind right now, so that coronal hole is really effect. It's not it yet. 14th, they're calling it. So we're off the chart here. You can see there's a little pickup down here. So we're expecting high 6s, near 7s anytime. And here we are already on the 12th. And we're somewhere out here, right? So
yeah, it's geophysicist guys that I've been reading or watching. They say if it's going to do something big, it should be by this weekend.
Right, there's an uptick, right? So we on the northern side here, we see plasma. That here's our Earth. Plasma came through from the sun in a form of a geomagnetic storm. It didn't hit us dead on. You can see there's a little bit of plasma right here, and as this passes through, I don't think it went up beyond KP4. I didn't see, and here's another one that passed through. Here's the side view. Here's the top view, right? So it went over the top of us. Then you can see wind or velocity of wind coming through us right here. So that's coming at us in another wave. So this type of stuff happens all the time, but we don't always see the effects. Currently, the sun is right over between Australia and PNG. The moon is over the central mid-Atlantic. And the magnetic anomalies on the ground level, if the sun is here, it's pretty far out right now. And there was a big pulse, and then it went away, and then boom, it came back, right? And then here we are, current time there. So a big pulse happened. So if you look at the X-rays, right? The X-rays are not a whole big deal. We're in a C range, and look like we're even diving down. So it doesn't look like there's a lot of energy coming out of the sun in a um, in a X-ray flux sense. What else? Yeah, we can look at this one here. Share the temp. Here's the velocity of the wind right now. You'll see the red is higher levels, the yellows are lower, and the blues are really low. So you can see waves coming through. I suspect we're going to it'll go pretty red here in a minute. And then see, there's a big red push right there. Right? And there's another one. Poof. Right? Our magnetopause, which is our cores, has the electromagnetic protection around us, buffets most of this. And you can see the dynamic pressure here from the density of the protons that are coming at us. The more blue it is, the more protons. And doing in the last, looks like maybe 6 hours here, from 2300. And you'll see there's none. No protons. And then you'll see a wave come in. Poof. Right? And then it kind of dies out. Poof. And there's another wave. Right? This is all computer generated to help you see what's going on outside of off the Earth, right? In the atmosphere and around our planet. Right? So looking at the dynamic pressure, this is kind of like if you had two magnets, you put them on a desk or a table, and you push them together. If they're the same polarity, they'll repel each other. If they're not, they're going to be drawn together, right? The opposites attract. So the more pressure is, the more resistant the Earth is to whatever's coming at it. And you will see if it turns red. Boof. See that? And then it goes away. Big waves come in of energy, boof, into the ionosphere, charging our planet, and our planet repels it because it's got both positive and negative ions out there. There you go. So interesting there. But how's all this relate to see our chances of an X flare is 5%, M is 40. In the geomagnetic storms, we're very low. 40 is in mid latitudes and 10% in the upper. Of that 40, if it does hit, 20% will be minor and 5 will be severe. So it's not a whole lot. We talk about this every morning on Joe Slick Live here on twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. We look at the sunspots. None of these are really have a chance to really throw stuff at us. 3990 can throw some M's, but it's relatively quiet and peaceful on the sun right now. And I'll show you that. All right. Here's 3990. Here's the other ones. These ones aren't particularly active to show that they were going to throw something at us. Right. Looking at the solar disk, we're looking this. I'm showing you all this so you can understand from a solar perspective what's happening toward our planet. So when we talk about these things, well, what's going on? There's really not a whole lot going on. However, there's been sloshing going on inside and underneath and above the fault system there in Santorini. And we've been studying these things for some time, and we believe that the energy around in our atmosphere is really charged and ready to let go of something. Now, we did have a 7.6 in the Caribbean here, a week ago, right? Thank God it didn't hurt nobody, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But in the area of interest is along this line. I'll show you this. Along this line, it's going back and forth, and also it kind of spreads out right through here. So it gets thickened right in this region. Here's a Mogalos, or a Morgaso, or Amorgos, and here is a Santorini Columbo, right? So right through here is the majority of these earthquakes on the map. So let me see if I can go back to Santorini Seismo, and nothing's being shown right now. I can share this tab, share it with you. You can see right in the middle. This is pretty quiet comparative what was been going on. And you can see where the earthquakes are happening back and forth, right? In hours, very busy and then not so busy, right? And the depth, 5 kilometers, 15 kilometers. It's pretty much staying below 5 kilometers. Magnitudes, green is low, red is high, and it's staying in this range. And the pickup of a number of quakes and that's the in the visual here. What else? Looking at Santorini live from the camera on the island. Still people out there, but I think some of them are going, I don't know. Look at this. There's a tourist ship in the bay. I think this is, I think it's taking people away. Yeah. And I think people are also being evacuated. This might be one of those big tankers that evacuating people, they put the cars on it. They have a bunch of those too. You can see right here, there's one right here. You drive your car right on it and they'll take you off the island. And I don't know what that is. It's just a light. But yeah, here's the blue church. You can see black and white. What happened here? Okay. I'm looking at the seismos in the area. I don't see a whole lot. Small little creeks, earthquakes, not a lot. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means right now, right?
Yeah, they say sometimes it slows down and then sometimes it speeds up. So you get higher mags and then it slows down again.
Right. And
so kind of like what Ethiopia.
I was just bringing in Ethiopia right now. There you go. Bringing in the Ethiopian quakes. Remember they were hitting 5s all day long. And here's a list of them. February 9th, February 18, February 4, 12, 7, 4, right? The 4th, it was hitting pretty good. The 7th had a couple little quakes, and the 12th had a quake, which is today or yesterday for them. All mid 4s, right? And you remember this thing was hitting 5s, bang, 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 bang. And everybody said, oh, it's going to fall off. The ocean's coming in and all this stuff. And nothing happened.
Yet.
And then after this event, then Santorini kicked off. And Santorini's been doing it for a little bit of time. So, it's really interesting. And then we have the third or fourth place, Iceland. We're always watching Iceland because it's met the lower threshold of each of the volcanic eruptions. All right, so it can erupt any moment. it doesn't mean it will. But what's the latest you've read on that, Canuck?
Well, just the last I heard today that the quakes are moving south more towards Santorini
Okay.
today, but
No, I was
last night,
referring to Iceland. Sorry.
oh, Iceland. Well, they think that the eruption could be any time now. And they're kind of worried because it's been so stormy there. So their
Oh,
instrumentation
the water.
up.
Uh,
So they think the magma chamber is back all full again. But some of
right.
the
There's several
are
chambers. The
off.
main one is full again. Yeah.
Yeah, but some of the readings are off because of the bad weather and the problems they've had with the instruments.
Okay.
So,
What about
but
that fiber optic line? Has it shown anything?
no, I never saw them mention anything about that.
That was
But
how
it's
they were
just,
sensing it before, that fiber optic.
yeah,
Maybe it got cut during the last eruption.
but it's just all the instruments they use for the GPS and to find
Right.
out how much it's going up or down or
Right. And that's the
all
image
that.
that we're seeing right now is the upflow here to three-dimensional, uh, the rise and the push up as magma enters the chamber and it expands, the gases make it expand. The harmonic tremors right now look like they're peaking up a little bit on a lower level. What's it, orange? FMB, who's fell? Um, Everything else is kind of quiet.
Yeah. And the other thing they're worried about is how the last eruption, how it made a dip, like in where the lava came the last time. So
Uh-huh.
they think if it erupts again in approximately the same area, the lava is going to come down that channel that's in the new lava from last time.
Uh-huh.
And if it comes the wrong way, they're afraid that it might go over the walls.
Oh man.
They built them
What's
up
happening
higher,
with
but
Grimsvatn? I saw earthquakes happen on Grimsvatn. What's going on there?
well, it's still the last I heard, which was a week
The
or so
ice is
ago.
melting and the floods are happening
Yeah, it's
still.
still it's still doing the same things, but
Okay,
they
that's
haven't.
very similar to what goes on in Antarctica, right? Where the water is like melting underneath the snow and the ice,
Yeah,
and causing these lakes and floods. And but the earthquakes, I'm interested about the earthquakes on Grimsvatn because I think there was what last one there was a 5 or close to it.
yeah, it had like a bigger one in a swarm, but I think it's settled down some. It's not as bad as
Okay,
what it was when those happened. That was the last I heard, anyway.
all right,
But they're of course monitoring it just like they are the other
right.
ones.
And we had a couple of earthquakes in the Atlantic, and today Sandwich Islands popped, West Chile Rise popped, Fiji went very deep, several big Fijis, you know, 4.8 and what was it, a 4.6, and Japan had a 5 today, right? And a 4.8, 2 5s today in Japan.
Yeah,
The Halmahera region, 4.9. It's Tobelo, Indonesia. Then we're Krakatau, just north of Krakatau, had a 4.7 today.
yeah.
And the
Because
latest, go ahead.
what I want to do next is go back and look at, because now I have all the eruptions
Sure.
at Santorini for the last 2,000 years.
All right.
And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So they know what year it was
All
and
right,
how long
cool.
it
Put
lasted. And
the link in there.
well, it's on when I did the Google AI search. So the Google AI search is like a link that's like,
Oh yeah, no, AI is always messing this up.
yeah.
So uh,
So it's easier just to read it.
I'll go for it.
Yeah. So this is going to be the history of Santorini eruptions. It's not very long. Probably only take me like
Sure.
5 minutes or less to read it.
Right on.
Yeah, the Greek island of Santorini has a history of volcanic activity that dates back over 650,000 years. The island has had at least 12 large explosive eruptions, including the famous Minoan eruption around 1600 BCE. We'll talk about that after. Now, it lists the most recent eruptions here, so it gives the date and like how long it lasted and all that. So we're going from most recent back. So the first one was in 1950. So an eruption that lasted from January 10th to February 2nd. So I mentioned that one earlier, so it was like 3 weeks. And that was 6 years before the 7.7 earthquake. So the 7.7 earthquake there was 1956. So I started looking down through this list, and then the previous eruption of that one was between 1939 and 1941. An eruption that lasted from August 20th, 1939 to July 2nd, 1941.
But that had a VEI2 explosion.
Yeah, so that was like a 2-year one. So
yeah. So that's not quite as big as St. Helens, but it was quite the explosion.
Yeah. So now the next one they have on the list, it was from 1866 to 1870. So another one that was like multiple years. An eruption that lasted from January 26, 1866 to October 15th, 1870. So that time it was like a 4-year eruption. Now, what I found interesting about that is halfway in between that, 1868 was all crazy Hayward fault quake. The Kilauea went nuts with the big quake.
Right.
So that was all in the middle of that one.
So what was the date on that again?
It went for 4 years from January 26, 1866 to October 15th, 1870.
Okay.
So 4 years.
1866 was, what do we call it? A solar maximum?
Yeah, probably, because see, all that crazy stuff happened in 1868. The 9 in Peru, the 7.9 in Hawaii, and the big quake at Hayward Fault.
Right. The perfect storm happened in 1859. That was the Carrington event.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up, everybody, because we look for things not just, the historical record of a volcano. We look at earthquakes. We look at weather events. We look at solar events. We look at all these other effects that tell us what's going on our planet. It isn't just, boom, there was an earthquake. Okay. Yeah. Well, how do you really relate that to human life?
Yeah. So what we're going to do, like once we go through these, I'm going to look up at like the years that I don't know about, just to see what what's happening in those years. Like the other ones here, I pretty much know, like what was happening in between.
1860 was a solar cycle 10. The Union of Italy War of Secession happened at that time. So, all right. So go ahead.
Yeah. So that was the 1866 to 1870 eruption of Santorini.
And that ended up being the pickup of the peak value of solar cycle 11, the French-Prussian War and the Paris Commune. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now the next one they have, it's another 4-year eruption. It went from 1707 to 1711, and it started on May 23rd, 1707, and went to September 14th, 1711. Well, I've studied 1707 in detail, and that was the same year that Nankai Trough went off with the 9. Mount Fuji erupted. That was the last time Mount Fuji erupted. So I thought that
1707, right? Fuji.
Yeah. And I believe that one was towards the end of the year too. Because the Fuji eruption happened after Nankai Trough had the 9.
Excuse me, the 9, yeah.
So that was
In
pretty
1707. That's 93 years before. No, 7 years after the Pacific Northwest had their big deal.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that right now, but
I know, I got you.
Yeah, the previous eruption of Mount Fuji was in 1700, right after Cascadia happened.
Right.
So the opposite side. So that's pretty interesting too.
Sure is.
Yeah. So, but anyway, now on to the next date that they have here, which is 1570 to 1573. They don't have the exact dates on that one. They just know it lasted about 3 years. Now, I'd have to go look to see what other quakes and stuff were happening between 1570 to 1573. Yeah. But I want to go through all the lists first. And now the next one they list after that was in the year 726. And they said it was an eruption that ejected volcanic ash long distances.
Wow.
And created magma that is still present in Palea Kameni or Kameni. That's the island that's in the middle of Santorini, where the volcano is. That's what they call that island. That's the volcanic black part, right where the
Colombo.
No, Palea Kameni. It's where it's.
Oh yeah, it's next to it. There's 2 islands. Yeah.
Yeah, right in the middle.
I have it on screen.
That's what they call it. That island in the middle of it. And then, it mentions the Minoan eruption in 1600 BC. I'll talk about that after.
Right. Which is a VEI 7, the biggest.
Yeah. But I want to go back and look at, like, we know the last eruption was 1950.
Right.
So I want to look at what quakes were happening in 1950.
All right.
Read offhand.
All right. Earthquakes of 1950. List earthquakes 1950. Here we go. The largest ones.
Yeah, let's just look at the biggest one that year.
Okay. Yeah, India, Padresh had an 8.6. Venezuela had a 6.4. Peru had a 6.0. Iran had a 5.7. Indonesia, Java had a 6.6. So an 8.6 is pretty severe.
Yeah.
And
so where was the 8.6 again?
In India. Yeah. Known as the Assam earthquake occurred on August 15. Had a moment magnitude 8.7. Epicenter is located in the Mishmi Hills. Is one of the strongest earthquakes ever recorded on land.
Wow.
And pretty severe.
Is it same east-west line, I wonder?
I'm looking. Yeah, it is. Matter of fact.
Okay. Well,
I'm trying to find the location of it.
I've never studied that one. I don't remember ever reading about it. So that's interesting.
The Tibetan Plateau, the Burma microplate. Let me see here. Its epicenter is located in the Mishma Hills, located northeastern tip of India, in the north Arunche Padresh. On the Chinese side, they form a southern parts of the Nichai prefecture at the Tibet Autonomous Region. And I don't think it'll show me. It won't. Damn things.
Yeah, well, it'll get harder the farther we go back.
It's up in the right-hand side when you're looking at India, right by Myanmar. There's that flip, that like knuckle that flips around, right? So it was up in there. So
Okay.
it wasn't where the tallest mountain is, but it was to the east of that, on the border. Yeah, let me show you here. Share this tab. It happened right out here. All right. So let me share these people over here. It happened right out here. Over here is where um, I want to say Arab, but I know it's not. It's um, uh, yeah. Anyway, the tallest mountain in the world over here, right about here. But this earthquake happened over here. Here's Burma microplate right at the top of it.
Yeah, I've read about the Kunlun Fault.
Yeah,
I haven't read about the one at the top, Hayua, or whatever it is.
yeah. And so
So I don't know how close it was to one of those.
I don't know. Uh, Northeastern India, southern Tibet lie in a frontal part of collision between India plate and Eurasia. The thrust belt, which marks the plate boundaries, formed by a series of subparallel thrust faults in part of the Himalayas, show the rapid lateral change in orientation, southwest to northeast, trending northwest to southeast, trending an area of Namche, Barba, whatever the hell that is, the west of the main plate. And you can see the thrust on this image. Which joins which connects to the South Naga thrust. So I'm thinking it's in this mess down here.
So when did they say that quake was? In August?
August 1950.
Yeah. So that was same year as
8.6 to 8.8.
Santorini eruption. So that's kind of interesting.
Crazy.
I don't want to go into super detail on each
No,
one.
right. We're hitting just the big ones there. Yeah.
I just want to see the major quakes that year and if it could be.
Well, it wasn't too long ago that we were getting earthquakes in that Tibet region.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead.
They say in China, but like close to Nepal. So when you look up the historical ones, it says Nepal, not China.
Right.
That's just an aside. So now I want to go to the next one, which was the one that lasted for 2 years, which was 1939 to 1941. Now I can't remember anything offhand those years if there was big quakes. So it started.
The largest earthquake was a 7.8. No, it wasn't the largest. Turkey, Erzincan province. I don't know where the hell that is.
Yeah, that's way over on the far side at the start of the North Anatolian Fault.
That had a 7.8.
So that would be same east.
Chile had an 8.3. Turkey, Izmir. Now that's close to what we're talking about. That's on the border of that ocean. That had a 6.3. Peru had a big one. They don't know the size of it. Japan had a big one, 7. Gold Coast had a 6.4. Turkey had another that is Zirin, 5.9. The Solomon Islands popped with a 7.8. So
that's interesting because that's running into all those turkey quakes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was 1939. Right?
I'm just going to say 24.
Well, let's see what happened in 1940.
All right, 1940. I'm going to share this tab. Romania, 7.8. China, Yunnan province, 6. Peru, Lima, 8.2. China, Mongolia. Hey, Mongolia's been hit in the last few days too. 6. Georgian, it hit there too, 6.5. And Japan, Eastern Sea of Japan, 7.5. So,
see, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, now. I want to say Romania did hit recently. It wasn't big. I mean, I'm hearing the same names, but nothing really big like what we're hearing now. So that's interesting.
And it went till July 2nd, 1941. So I guess we can look up 41 too, just to see what the
Alrighty.
biggest quakes were. All I'm trying to do is identify it on like the
Right. All right.
line.
So by magnitude, the Azores Gibraltar Transform Fault had an 8.
In 41?
Wow.
Well, that's our same line.
Kyushu, Japan had a 7.9.
Yeah.
Michoacan, Mexico had a 7.6. Baja, Andaman Islands, 7.6. New Guinea, PNG, 7.4. Santa Cruz Islands, 7.4. Sulawesi, 7.4. Costa Rica, 7.3. Japan, 7.3. Argentina, 7.2. New Zealand, 7.2. China, Yunnan Province, 7.2. Sandwich Islands, 7.1. Philippines, 7. Costa Rica, 7. So pretty damn big quakes.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Same
in
years.
In 41.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the next one is 1866 to 1870.
All right. So we have to go to the
We're going to have to go to Gia for that
Gia.
one.
Yeah.
Which it should be pretty easy to do because they have all the big ones right on there for. You should be able to go right over them pretty easy.
All right. So 18 what?
66, because the eruption started January 26, 1866.
Turkey popping away. Yeah. More info. Looks like a 7.5. Turkey.
Yeah,
On Anatolian fault, northern Anatolia. Actually, where they both come together.
Yeah. Well,
That's
there's
pretty-
Incan, I don't think is that far from where they like come together, but it's on the north one, if I remember right. Because I looked up that one when I looked up the historical Turkey. I just can't remember all the dates.
Yeah, Jamaica the next year later, but Azerbaijan the year after that. Nothing. 1866. Oh, Antigua. Blew up.
Well,
they don't know the size.
Yeah.
Wait, is that 1666? Is that what you're looking at?
1866.
Oh, okay. I'm mistaken. I'm looking at 16. Sorry.
Oh, you're looking at 1666.
Yeah. 1866. I thought you already moved down.
I'm doing the next one, 1866 to 1870.
All right. I'm sorry. Shoot, there's a lot in 1800s. Oh my gosh. Very busy year.
You have to use that Gia thing to find out what was going on.
I'm trying to look at it. All right, 61,
otherwise
2, 3.
You have to search each year individually. It gets way more complicated.
All right.
It's way easier from 1900 on up.
66 would be. Well, let me make sure I'm going to erase all of these things. 66.
You got to click them off, or you.
Oh, it's the Eastern Anatolian Fault again. Gonic. Right? And it was a 7.2. Same place in 1666. Same place. 200 years later had another 7.2. That's weird. Nepal had a quake.
Well,
yeah.
Similar to what just happened here not too long ago.
7.0, 7.4. So not over here near Bhutan and this area here. In my view tab, yeah. Not in this area over here on the right, and you can't see. Yeah, you can. Good. But This one's over here, Nepal by, yeah. Kamchatka, 66. Southern Kamchatka. All right. And that one's a 7.1. In 1866. So what's your next one?
1867. We'll look at 1867.
All right. It looks like Algeria.
Yeah, well, that's our same east-west line. So that's interesting.
Had a 7.5.
Yeah.
7.3, 7.5. 67, Greece. The other side of Greece, Luxury, looks like a 7.1. And that's quaking right now, too, by the way.
Yeah.
We've seen the quakes happening over there. And in 67, Indonesia, right by north of Semeru. And that's an 8. Oof. San Salvador, a 7.1. Central Pacific Coast, Managua. That would be Nicaragua, 7.3. So Central America is going crazy.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
And I also know in 1867 that was the Manhattan, Kansas biggest quake, which they think was a high 5.
Okay. Saint Thomas of the Virgins, 7.5. Also, Taiwan, northern Taiwan, 7.0.
Yeah.
And then we go to 68 after that. But
68 we don't really need to do because we've already studied that one before.
65, Bangladesh popped. Also, again, Nicaragua. Tonga popped out in the way out there. Indonesia, down in Java. And that's it. So that's 1 year before, 1 year after.
Yeah, so let's do 1869 now. Because this eruption went for 4 years, so I want to see.
Okay, 69. You got, again, you have up in India. It seems that it's really seeming like India and this region here, when it goes off, that starts acting up.
Yeah.
That's, a 7.3.
Well, to me, it's almost like the east-west liniment line is going active.
Philippines.
Yeah, that's what it's doing.
Yeah, the Philippines popped.
Because it seems odd to me that all these big quakes are happening like in the same year, all on like the same
time period, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Now you'd have to look for like other eruptions too, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like we're only doing it from the point of view of Santorini, right?
Right.
So,
there's overlapping, and we're not writing a program to tell us about all that stuff. So
we're just doing this live in our mind, or just to see if there's any weird pattern, right?
Right.
Over and over. See if there's any similarities between these different eruption dates.
6.6 off of Philippines.
It's kind of fun.
And Chile had an 8.4, 7.4 to 8.4. Chile.
Yeah.
We haven't had an 8. We've had several 7.6s in the last couple of years, but we haven't had any 8s, have we?
No.
Except for the Alaskan one?
Yeah, no 8 since 2021.
Right.
So
and that's when we had Sandwich Islands, New Zealand, Japan, and Alaska.
Whatever it is 3.5, 4 years now since
Yeah.
the last 8.
Which is long for the last 50 years to have no 8s 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 1870 is the last year we have to look up for that one.
Okay.
The eruption ended October 15th, 1870.
Sichuan, China, 7.3. Oaxaca, Mexico. They don't know it's big. They don't know. Chicha, whatever. I think that's where the hell was that? Central America, 7.2. Canada, in 1870 had a 6.5.
Where I think that
over by you, La Montagne.
Yeah, that's Charlevoix, I think.
Charlevoix, yeah.
Yeah, because there was another one, like,
yep, and that's
in
it.
the 6s.
Yeah,
that was after 1663. So that's
all right.
interesting.
So you have those.
Yeah. Now the next one is 1707 to 1711.
All right.
I already know 1707 because that was Nankai Trough.
Right, we talked about that.
Yeah. So 1708.
1707, Western Japan, and 9. There was
yeah, that's the Nankai Trough one.
Right.
I think it was a 9. Full segment, all segments.
The other side of this one is in Ningxi, China, in 1709.
I think in this date range, there's a big New Zealand quake too. I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, 707 to 710
to 1711.
Okay,
so
11.
Another 4-year eruption. It started May 23rd, 1707.
Salvador, 7. Central America seems to go off when this thing goes off. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
they go off pretty regularly large too.
So there must be some other liniment line that goes through there that goes through the other.
Indonesia.
Dig more into that.
Okay.
Because we're doing all this live right now. It's fun.
I know, right? Do it live. Crazy, jeez. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Banda Sea, the Sarum Sea. Those were happening in this time period. It's not a lot on this time period. 1710, 1711. Then no, there's no more.
So that's it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now the next one we're going to do is 1570 to 1573. So it's a 3-year eruption.
Grenada.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be sorry. It would be 6 in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Chile had an 8 to an 8.3. And that's it, 7 to 70. So next one is 75. Prior to the 70 is 68. That would be Jalisco.
Yeah. So we don't have good details then on.
Correct, because we're going back in time now. You remember that?
Yeah. And the next one's 726, but Gia doesn't go back that far. It only goes to the year 1000.
1000, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there was a big quake, Italy, around that same time, like 727.
What year?
I think like 727 or 724, like in that age range. Because I've looked up other ones before, like in Italy. I think there was a big quake around that.
749 Dead Sea earthquake. 749.
Okay, that would have been a little bit after then. So now we got to go back.
727.
Yeah. Yeah, 727. That's a number I remember reading before, but I don't know which one it was. It's harder to find the farther you go back.
Sure. Earthquake in the 700s AD. Major earthquake in 749 in Galilee region, January 18. 747, 749. Sea of Galilee. Yeah. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, the earliest one would be Shikoku, Japan in 684.
Yeah.
8.4.
Well, that's as far as we can go for the data we have right now. Well, we can talk about the 1600 BCE one because they have
right. I have all the way back to like way back there.
Yeah.
So
because they have an actual wiki on the 1600 BCE eruption. So
okay.
So we can just look at that one.
Yeah.
Because I've read a few other studies on it too, so I'm going to give my 2 cents.
Okay.
Yeah. After we look at the wiki.
Okay, well, let's give me the link.
I got to bring it up here. I got so many. Okay, I got to go back here. It's easier just to hit the.
There doesn't appear to be any continuity of earthquakes since this last year of 24 until now, except for in Turkey where the big ones hit, you know. And
yeah, like 2 years ago, 2023.
Right. And then as they go south, it looks like 100 miles north of the plate boundary between Africa and Greece. I can show you. I just share it. It's easy just to do this. This is for the last year. Earthquakes, all the earthquakes listed. You can see out here in Turkey, pretty busy. I'll bring it over here for those. In my place. You'll see here's where our earthquakes are happening here. There's up here in Central Macedonia, there's a couple of active areas, and then down here in Thessaly, also more kind of look at how they kind of like goes almost into that area, these lines of earthquakes. So it may be that somewhere out, I don't know what island that is. Palea? I want to look.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, I forget how many islands they said.
Yeah.
Are part of that area.
Yeah.
Because they call some of them Cyclades Islands. Or
Pangaea?
And there's a bunch of them.
Monastery of Pangaea. Fleveretisa. Astipalia. Okay. Well, anyway, it appears that all the earthquakes last year kind of forced, if you follow lines into them, they all go into here. So looking at the earthquakes, share this tab, and I'll put it on ocean for you. You'll see that a swarm, a swarm, a swarm, a swarm, a little swarm, and little ones. And everything seems to be kind of trending, right? Kind of trending between Santorini and it's not Izmir, but it's this area of the Gokova Trough. It seems that it's moving in that direction. Everything seems to, point in that direction. Now this just could be because there's movement on the plate down here. You see from this nice line of quakes here. This is just for 1 year, everybody. And you'll see a nice line up there, moving up and over into Greece. Iran. I didn't realize there was so much moving into this region. Baghdad, the Zagros Mountains are pretty darn busy, tell you the truth. Tajikistan, very, very busy. Kabul, north of Kabul. This area is always busy. This is what I was looking at right here. This thing just wouldn't stop last year, right? And we have 3 sections in northern, 4 in northern, northwestern China. And there's no particular reason why the earthquakes are swarming there. It's no particular reason. I mean, why not over here? Why not over here? Why not up there? Why in this little area? And then you have the plateau, nice little swarms. Right, there's the Tibetan 7.1 that happened January 7th. Right? That other historical one happened way over here, but then we have this little swarm. Right? And then there's this swarm up in here, Western Xinjiang. Always busy. Xinjiang. Like a swarm here, a swarm here, a swarm here. Pretty spaced out. And a swarm down here. Why are they only in certain areas? That's my question. Why not over here? Why not over there? Why not over there? Why not swarm with this other one down here? Or even next to it? Why swarming there? Right? We know these aftershocks here, not a big deal. But why are they swarming in these specific locations? Right? And you can see very, very, very active. And they don't consider a plate boundary up here. The plate boundary is down here above India. I consider there's one up there. It's an ancient plate boundary, but I consider it to be one. Did you find it? Okay, cool. Here's the Minoan eruption. Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, now this one is super long. I don't want to get into it too far. I'm just going to read the...
Well, explain the big portion of it. You don't have to explain the people and all that.
Because this gets right nuts. It explains all the studies and how they determined what year it was and all this other stuff, which I'm not going to go through all that.
Yeah.
Like they think that the current latest studies, they think it was like 1610 to 20, depending on which one you read. BC.
All right. And we don't have to go into that. It doesn't matter. We know it was a VEI 7.
Yeah.
Which is extreme.
Yeah. And it talks about it resulted in the ejection of approximately 28 to 1 cubic kilometers, 6.7 to 9.8 cubic miles of dense rock equivalent. The eruption was one of the largest volcanic events in human history. Since tephra from the Minoa eruption serves as a marker horizon in nearly all archaeological sites in the eastern Mediterranean. Its precise date is of high importance and has been fiercely debated among archaeologists and
Volcanologist.
volcanologists for decades.
Yeah, we're getting tired here, people, so please bear with
without
us.
coming to a definite conclusion. While there are no clear ancient records of the eruption, its plume and volcanic lightning may have been described in the Egyptian tempest steel, whatever that is. The Chinese bamboo annals reported unusual yellow skies and summer frost at the beginning of the Shang dynasty, which may have been a consequence of volcanic winter, similar to 1816, the year without a summer, after the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora. So that's interesting. And in this section, it talks about the background. Geological evidence shows the Thera volcano erupted numerous times over several 100,000 years before the Minoan eruption. In a repeating process, the volcano would violently erupt and then eventually collapse into a roughly circular seawater-filled caldera with numerous small islands forming the circle. The caldera would slowly refill with magma, building a new volcano, which erupted and then collapsed in an ongoing cyclical process. Immediately before the Minoan eruption, the walls of the caldera formed a nearly continuous ring of islands, with the only entrance between Thera and the tiny island of Aspronisi. This cataclysmic eruption was centered on a small island just north of the existing island of Nea Kameni in the center of the then existing caldera. The northern part of the caldera was refilled by the volcanic ash and lava, then collapsed again. It's crazy stuff. The magnitude of the eruption, particularly the submarine pyroclastic flows, has been difficult to estimate because the majority of the erupted products were deposited in the sea. Together, these challenges result in considerable uncertainty regarding the volume of the Minoan eruption, with estimates ranging between 13 and 86 cubic kilometers. Stuff.
Well, according to this analysis,
it says there was multiple eruptions after the initial one.
Right.
So when you read down farther, it says there was actually multiple tsunamis too, from like the other eruptions that happened right after the big one. So that's interesting. On Santorini, there's a 60-meter, 200 feet thick layer of white tephra that overlies the soil, clearly delineating the ground level before the eruption. So that's pretty wild, 200 feet thick.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So that's nuts.
It's on par with the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora, the 1257 Salamis eruption, the Taupo New Zealand eruption, wow, and the 230 and 946 Pikachu Mountain in China.
Yeah, that's the one, the North Korean one where
what's name says he was born from.
Yeah, where all the Kims come from, supposedly.
Yeah, they think they're Godzilla.
Yeah, they came walking out of the volcano and took over. At least that's what the story goes of the Kims in North Korea. Now back to this again. It said, okay, what's this? Studies have identified 4 major eruption phases to when the big one blew up, and 1 minor precursory tephra fall. So it was erupting a little bit before it did the big one. The thinness of the first layer, along with the lack of noticeable erosion of that layer by winter rains before the next layer was deposited indicate that the volcano gave the local population a few months' warning. And since no human remains have been found at the Akrotiri site, this preliminary volcanic activity probably caused the island's population to flee. It is also suggested that several months before the eruption, Santorini experienced one or more earthquakes which damaged the local settlements. So, like when I read a bunch of the studies, this is what they said, that they never found like any bodies encased in ash, like what Vesuvius did at Pompeii. So
Yeah.
they surmised that whatever it was doing beforehand was enough to scare the people out of there.
Well, there's
So that's
the story. There's a story as well. You know, there's many stories that kind of they bring together about this eruption. The one that stands to my mind, and you and I talked about it before, the exodus of Israel. When stuff fell out of the sky in one of the, fire from the sky, it could have been very much that event.
Yeah. Well,
and it's pretty far from Egypt.
Yeah. Or it could be an asteroid, could be really anything.
Sure.
Because I think that's what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
And there's actually stuff that suggests that now.
Oh, yeah?
There's new studies yet. Because they figured out that there was a asteroid that, or meteorite or something was flying around at that time. And that's what came in.
Did they ever find that kind of material in that area, or maybe was it a above the ground explosion?
Like where Sodom and Gomorrah was, they figured out that it was like a nuclear explosion.
Tanzanite or something?
Yeah, so they think it was from like an asteroid or a meteor or whatever coming in. Because by their tests they did on that site, they said it was like it super melted and blew everything all apart. And it's like very similar to like a nuclear explosion. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I read that study, I think it was like a couple of years ago. So, and it was like new stuff based upon all the new technology they have for figuring out when all this was, dating it, and crazy stuff.
Far out.
Yeah. So in this section here, I'm going to go down to the volcanology section because it talks about the eruption itself. The eruption was of the ultra-Plinian type, and it resulted in an estimated 30 to 35 kilometers, 19 to 22 mile high eruption column, which reached the stratosphere. In addition, the magma underlying the volcano came into contact with the shallow marine embayment, resulting in a violent phreatomagmatic blast. So that's pretty crazy stuff.
Pretty insane.
And they said the eruption generated 35 to 150 meter, 115 to 492 feet high tsunamis that devastated the northern coastline of Crete, 110 kilometers away. The tsunami affected coastal towns such as Amnisos, where building walls were knocked out of alignment. On the island of Anafi, 27 kilometers to the east, ash layers 3 meter, 10 feet deep have been found, as well as pumice layers on slopes 250 meters above sea level. Elsewhere in the Mediterranean, pumice deposits that could have been sent by the Thera eruption. Ash layers and cores drilled from the seabed and from lakes in Turkey show that the heaviest ashfall was towards the east and northeast of Santorini. So that must have been the way the winds blow, I guess. The ash found on Crete is now known to have been from a precursory phase of the eruption, some weeks or months before the main eruptive phases, and it would have had little impact on the island. Santorini ash deposits were at one time claimed to have been found in the Nile Delta, but this is now
interesting.
known to be a misidentification. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I'm not going to go into all this other stuff because they talk about all the studies that have been done on this and like how they dated it to find out when it actually happened.
Correct.
And how they list all the studies and what their age ranges are, so you get all. There's so many, it's like crazy.
Right. I mean, it gets too deep. If somebody finds something interesting, send it in the chat or send it into jsldiscussion@gmail. And if you find something interesting you want to talk about and bring up and add to this report.
And they said that
Ethiopia is doing it.
Find evidence of it in the ice cores in Greenland too.
They did not?
Did find it.
Wow.
That there was something around that time that they say 1627 from their research. So
well, they're getting pretty good data nowadays, getting it to where, they're in a couple hundred years, so pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, and it talks about like how it affected the Greeks and how it affected the Egyptians and all this other stuff. But,
well, the Egyptians got their ass kicked.
Yeah. What's funny is
they should have let his people go.
Yeah, when I read about this, it was like multiple tsunamis.
Yeah.
Like after the big ones. Because it kept blowing up for a while after that.
Right.
So it wasn't just the one big eruption. It was doing stuff before.
Right. And there was talk that Vesuvius or Campi Flegrei was blowing up at the same time in the 1680. So I've heard stories.
You have to like study each one individually and find out.
Right.
All going off at the same time. But, like I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but
oh yeah. Well,
fun.
like I was telling you earlier last week when it started up, I said, you know what? I'm going to keep an eye on Etna and Volcano, Vulcan, and that other island right there, that volcano in Italy there, because it is along that trench, so to speak.
Like the radical geophysicist guys think it's going to be mainly a main quake there. But if you start getting into the mantle stuff that's under there, it gets more interesting.
Sure the hell does.
Because they do have new studies on it there, and they say that the African plate that's subducting under there is now rolling back because it's at a steeper angle than what it was.
Right.
So if you read the new mantle stuff, well, maybe that is what it's doing. It's making a new.
Well, it should make a stronger volcanic arc too.
Yeah.
If the mantle is shortened, there's not much volcanic material. But if it's dropping, there's going to be more volcanoes that develop.
Because
that's just the way it persists, generally speaking.
The subducting plate has changed position slightly. It might make a new magma breakthrough, but we're just going to have to see.
Right. Well, there's a slab window in there too, so you got to figure that out too.
Pretty interesting stuff. Like all they will admit for now is there's some fluid source down there that's going along those.
And the fluid source is bouncing back and forth. That's what's really far out.
Yeah. So when they talk about it, they say there's some, because this is a new thing now in all the faults. They always mention this fluid pressure thing. Right. Now, I don't know if the fluid pressure is water or something else, because they don't really say. Because, see, magma would do the same thing, right? It's liquidy, like water. So is it the magma causing it, or is it just water seeping down through those faults causing it? That's the question. So when they have the debate about tectonic or volcanic, which is what's going on right now, you can actually have both together and sometimes just one or the other. That's,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's the same debate in Iceland. Is it tectonic or volcanic, or is it both?
Right. And
So it's the same
harmonic
thing.
tremors and stuff too. Yeah, we can watch the harmonic tremors.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
the same thing in Ethiopia. Is this tectonic, volcanic? Is it going to blow through here? Well, we're not going to know until it actually does it. And so when I've been in these other chats that have been live where everybody's talking about this is what everybody is talking about. And I said in one of them, I said, well, this is kind of like Ethiopia, except it's underwater, and that got everybody going. So they said, oh, crap, yeah, that's kind of like what's doing down there. Because it is. It's doing the same thing as following
Right.
fault lines that are northeast to southwest, and all these quakes are happening all along it. And it's getting, well, like in Ethiopia, they've had vents, so you can see like where it's venting. But we don't know if it's venting there or not because it's
Yeah, it's
underwater.
really close to the surface there in Ethiopia. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have submarines down there. Check out Columbus, Volcano, Santorini. We don't have anything down there. Now, I've seen some video, but I didn't believe it to be true. So I didn't.
I know they have
promote it.
done surveys of all that water there just like recently
Yeah.
in that area, but I don't think they're doing anything right at this second. They've added a whole bunch more sensors by what I read because they're using some new AI program that one of the geophysicist guys was showing where they can pick up all the other quakes that the normal seismos can't pick up. And if you see their chart or whatever it is they have, they can see that whole section, like right in the middle there where it's been quaking, like that's all just completely, like when it picks up all the quakes that you normally can't detect with the seismos, it's like all completely black or gray, like in the center of where that swarm is. So whatever it's doing, it's shaking crazy there with the quakes they can detect because they had it like color coded. So you could see like the center was like a dark black or dark gray. And then going out farther away from it, the quakes were like red or orange or whatever, but you could see it like right in the middle of that, it was going super crazy. So you can see it's kind of going back and forth from like one side to the other. So it's pretty interesting. And whatever, I can't remember which geophysicist guy I was watching, but which one it was that did this, but he said whatever they use, it's some new AI thing. It's done with AI that they can track all the regular quakes that are detected by the seismos, but all the other ones that would be less than that they wouldn't register. So it's crazy stuff. But they are putting more like sensors out there since this all started happening to try and get more data. And I guess the latest stuff as of tonight, there are the authorities there are agreeing that it might be both tectonic and volcanic together. Whereas before, they were saying one or the other, but not both. So it keeps changing the more data that they get. That's basically what's happening.
Okay.
So they think it's either going to be a big quake there or worse. Well, worse would be a volcanic eruption because you don't want that there in all that water, because it wouldn't be good. So it's pretty interesting. Wild stuff.
Totally wild, dude. Can't call it, man.
No, so you just got to wait and see what it's going to do and then figure it all out after.
Yes, sir. We got it all, man.
Yeah. But I didn't find any connections between San Andreas and Santorini yet, so you don't got to worry about that for now.
No, we don't. All right, then. Well, it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, well, we can always go on and on about something. It's fun.
We always do. I enjoy it. You're a lot of fun, and there's just so many things um, out there. There's just so many.
Well, I think based upon all the stuff I've looked at the last however many days,
Mm-hmm.
as we've been looking at this, if anything is going to happen big, it should be by this weekend.
Well, by the weekend, all right.
Yeah, by this weekend.
That's what they said last weekend. I was disappointed nothing happened.
Well, I know there's all sorts of other exciting things happening this weekend too. So I said it'd be a perfect.
I'm sorry, Flutter Girl. You just got home.
Yeah, spring training starts this weekend too. So.
Yeah, I was telling
not the games, but everybody reporting for spring training.
Yeah. Well, you're over there. Remember morning reports, 7 a.m. Between 7 and 8, depends. Been a lot of stuff going on, and I want you to be aware of that. That stuff is, I was looking up whether or not they did. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is now who she is, but I didn't see JFK. I don't know if they stopped it because there was a filibuster, I think, going on about it.
Oh.
And so I don't know. It started 10 hours ago.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Oh, the haters, man, they're coming out of the woodwork. I mean, they're coming out of the woodwork.
Because
Tulsi didn't have.
This coming weekend should be wild for stuff. So,
yeah, well, it's good. I have a little time off, but I'm working around the place too. I've got to do a few things, but I've got my tools almost put away. And when you're working, it is sometimes it's a mess.
I just got to survive the storms because we're getting a big one tomorrow and then another big one Sunday, and Friday it's supposed to be super windy. They're saying 80-kilometer-per-hour wind gusts here, so that's not good. So, if everybody's out of power, and it's been right cold because it's minus 20 here right now, and it's not supposed to really warm up till next week by Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I'm like between snow wood and trying to stay warm, which is why we went and got groceries today, because we'll probably be shoveling all day Friday and probably all day Monday. Just get out the yard.
Well, excuse me. I hit the wall about an hour ago. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any sleep. But tomorrow's Thursday. It's my last day to take my daughter to work early in the morning, and I get to sleep in on, well, at least till 6. So I'm up at 6. Been trying to take care of mom. Mom and her memory is really bad now. She thought I was her dead husband. So it's been. She's a wonderful woman, but I'm not gonna. No, I married your daughter. But it is what it is.
Because they do strange things with their
Yeah. Appreciate you, man. I really do. For those over there on YouTube and Rumble, Thanks a lot. And remember Saturday. Don't get none on you, everybody.